Are you selling online but asking yourself when's the right time to jump into retail? Do you have products that are moving, customers that keep coming back, but you're unsure if it's enough to jump into Walmart, Target, Costco, etc.? Here's the truth. Retail isn't for every brand, but there are clear signs that tell you it's not just possible, but it's the right next move. And if you stick with me until the end, you'll learn to recognize these green flags and you'll have a clear answer to give your friends, partners, even investors, and more importantly, yourself when asked, are you ready for retail? Let's get into it. Let's talk about pulling demand and not pushing it. In plain English, the market is chasing you, not the other way around. When demand is pulling, customers and buyers are the ones creating momentum. They're coming back on their own, asking for more, and even pressuring retailers to stock you. And that's the opposite of push, where you're the one forcing sales with non-stop ads and discounts. If your sales only exist because you're forcing ads down people's throats, that's not demand, that's dependency. But if your customers are chasing you, that's different. Maybe you've got repeat buyers online, maybe a small distributor keeps coming back with reorders, or maybe a buyer slid into your inbox because they saw your product moving. Your demand becomes diversified, and now you have the market asking you to sell more. Now, here's a mistake I see all the time with business owners. They think they're ready for retail because the sales reports look great, but dig deeper and 90% of it comes from a single campaign. That's not a customer base, that's a faucet. Because the moment you turn it off, the water stops. Now compare that with a founder that has a mix of repeat customers, wholesale orders, and organic traffic that keeps climbing. That founder isn't guessing if the shelves will move. They know shelves will move because demand is proven to exist. And retail only works when the market is pulling. Buyers don't gamble on your product potentially selling. They want proof. So ask yourself this. If you shut off ads tomorrow, would your product still be selling? If the answer is yes, that's a great sign. To give you some benchmark numbers here, I would aim for 95% or better OTIF, on time in full, for test orders. GS1, UPCs, case packs, UC128 labels, and EDI already set up. A 3PL, warehouse partner that follows routing guides without you micromanaging. And it's not just about compliance, it's about capacity. For a pilot, you should be able to handle 2-3 times your current output without chaos. And for a chain-wide rollout, you may need 5 to 10 times capacity, since retailers stock both shelves and distribution centers on the very first order. Think of operations like a restaurant kitchen. It's not enough to cook one great plate when the inspector is watching. You need to serve it hot, correct, and consistent every night for every customer, no excuses. Now, maybe up until now, you've only sold direct to consumer, or maybe you built traction on Amazon, or maybe you've been growing it in another country. All that is great experience, but retail in the US is a different level of discipline. When you're selling D2C, a late shipment is an inconvenience, but you can usually fix it with an apology email or a discount code. On Amazon, you do have strict FBA rules, but you're still operating inside one system with one set of standards. Retail is different because each buyer has their own routing guides, labeling rules, and compliance checklists. Miss one requirement and best case scenario, you're hit with a penalty. Worst case scenario, you might just lose the entire account. So when I say retail ready, here's what I mean. Your operations aren't just good enough to ship sometimes. They're built to ship right every time across multiple retailers and without you, the owner, putting out the fires every time. Because remember, the buyers measure you by your best shipment, not by your worst. And if you can deliver consistently, they'll replace you with a brand that can. Now let's talk about margins and media for a second, because online you might be comfortable running tight margins because you control the cash flow. You get paid right away, you can reinvest daily, and even if you're only breaking even on the first purchase, you might still be profitable after 2 or 3 repeat orders. Retail doesn't work like that, because in retail, your unit economics have to hold up even when you don't see that customer ever again. Wholesale pricing, trade spend, deductions, freight, and long payment terms all chip away at your margin. And by the way, we actually broke all of this down in detail in another video. The video is all about margins, costs, cash flow. It's part of our, D2C versus retail playlist. So if you haven't seen it yet, check it out somewhere on the screen, and I'll also put it in the description. On top of everything, retailers often pay you on 60 to 90-day terms. And that means you're carrying the cash gap on the inventory long before you see a dime back. So what does that look like in practice? Well, here are three things. Number one, you've mapped your landed costs, wholesale price, trade spend, and expected deductions. Two, even after all of that, you're still keeping double-digit gross margin dollars per unit. And then number three, you have enough cash or financing to cover inventory gap until the payments clear. Margins are only half of the story here. The other half is media. Online, you can get away with niche, high CPM channels, maybe a podcast, a TikTok influencer, or a Facebook lookalike campaign that works for your audience. But retail requires scale. So if you can't reach a broad audience at efficient CPMs, your product won't move off shelves fast enough, and the buyers won't keep you in their set. And that's why successful retail brands shift their mix towards scalable channels. Retail media networks, out-of-home campaigns, or just broader digital that drives mass awareness. And now, I'm not saying you need to dominate the Super Bowl here, but you do need a path to push velocity across hundreds or even thousands of doors. Now, think of margins like oxygen. You can hold your breath for a while, but if there's not enough oxygen in the room, you won't last. And retail buyers know this. They're not impressed by vanity sales numbers if the overall math doesn't make sense. Instead, they want proof that your business model can work at scale. So here's a quick self-test. If after landed cost and trade spend, you're still netting, double-digit margin dollars, and your marketing plan has a path to drive store velocity at efficient CPMs, then you're ready. And that is your third green light. If you've got demand that keeps pulling, operations that can ship right every single time, and margins that still work as you scale, then you're ready. That's when walking into a buyer meeting feels less like a gamble and more about simply showing proof that you're ready to sell more. Anyway, thanks for sticking around, and if this video helped, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment with any question that you've got. And if you're serious about expanding to the US or simply boosting existing operations here for retail, D2C, or both, head over to our website, book a call with our team. We've helped scale dozens of companies, and we can surely do the same for you. And on that regard, I'll see you in the next one.